when the kids are dreaming up all the monsters and nightmares. And people are arguing as to whether or not Loki's the Fenrir, whether or not he's the Needhogger or whatever. And I did notice the Needhogger, the giant dragon, there was a squirrel or a gopher-looking thing next to it.
There may be an explanation as to why Loki's hammer broke, even though it was infused with Conqueror's Haki. I believe Ragnar was gifted to Elbaf by Wano.
I don't know how long Loki was dabbling with the hammer and fighting, but I thought it all kind of happened really quickly. And maybe they'll elongate this in the anime, but I'm like, bro, nobody could do this? For centuries? Not a soul? I was like, that sounds kind of BS to me, but okay.
They're giants.
Yes, stop. But it did make me think of what Lawrence was talking about earlier, and I wanted to comment on it a little earlier about you saying that you have to be an ancient giant to be able to wield this, to be able to compete with it, because, like you said, size-wise. But in general, it's also very possible, this is why, like you were saying, they've demanded that the ancient blood stays in this vein. You can't have somebody like Ida become wife and have kids and they become the kings, because if they have any chance to take Ragnir, you gotta have to be an ancient giant, most likely. So obviously Harold was one and he seemingly wasn't able to do this, but I thought the scene was dope. You see Loki's using Conqueror's Haki when he smashes it, so I think that's one of the requirements.
You could tell because of the Haki lightning size.
Yeah, man, the leakage, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I did think it was so cute that it had to not on his head and it was crying. I was like, bruh.
It's like a pompadour.
Yeah. Bruh.
A pompadour.
The Kuwabara haircut.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
I was mad hyped at that. I thought it was cute and funny. The squirrel or whatever that is, and basically telling Loki to eat the fruit, nod, and then it's jumping. I thought that was so funny, bro. I don't know what this fruit actually is. I was trying to rack my brain. I was talking to Aaron Creates for a second there, and he had a theory on the Ratatoskr, which is what he thinks that this is supposed to be emblematic of. It's like squirrel in Norse mythology. I don't have too much on that myself. I don't know enough about it. I just know that Aaron was relating it to, he thinks that it's not just Loki's strength, it's about who he is as a person that conveyed to Ragnir or to whatever this is, Ratatoskr, and he was able to say, yeah, okay, you're trying to help Elbaf, you're a good person, etc. You're not just trying to strive for power. The situation calls for it, take the fruit. I don't know if that's all true or not, or if that's accurate or not. I like that more than just, Loki's super strong, so he got the fruit. Personally, I don't think Oda writes the story in that way, but I think there's a strength threshold that he didn't need to reach, which is why the Conqueror's Haki needed to be a part of the attack. Because of that, I went back and looked at the double-page spread that exists when the kids are dreaming up all the monsters and nightmares. And people are arguing as to whether or not Loki's the Fenrir, whether or not he's the Needhogger or whatever. And I did notice the Needhogger or whatever, the giant dragon, there was a squirrel or a gopher-looking thing next to it with its tongue out. I mean, the dragon had its tongue out. I'd have to find the page. I can't find the page. My bad. I didn't do enough research. But it made me think, okay, if Oda is showcasing or foreshadowing one of these is the devil fruit, would that be more proof positive that it's that one because these two were together on that panel?
Loki scuffling with his hammer was funny to me because it's just like you said, they're both out of breath wheezing right here, so they're having their battle. And you saw the other panel a few back where it's chasing Loki, just spinning around, cracking the floor, chasing him. And Loki gets tired of it and smashes it. This said a lot to me. I kind of wanted to save a little bit more to the end of it, but the fact that he used a Conqueror's Haki attack and it still broke his hammer leads to me to another discussion I was talking about when I said the other time where someone used Haki into their sword and it broke on someone's back. But now we're seeing it with Conqueror's Haki, but I'll go into more later on. And then we see it turns out into being a squirrel. So now I know Larry mostly talked about this too. What is Ragnir? Is it a squirrel that ate the Ragnir fruit, or what exactly are you? But we just know that through this, Loki gained Ragnar's approval. To me, I think strength plays a big part of it because part of you're worthy or whatever. But the only thing that I could add maybe a little more, apparently through people's own will and maybe even their conquerors, you could kind of sense something from them. We got this before because, for example, we know how Rox is a conqueror and he's being down reversied, and we see that Roger and Garp are sensing feelings and emotions or whatever from Rox. And I'm thinking it's through his will or his Conqueror's Haki or something. But that's actually not the first time we got something like that. Luffy actually alludes to it in his discussion with Ray about future opponents. And then Ray thought it was the most weird and interesting response.
What they're like or whatever.
Yeah, what they're like. It depends on like kind of like the inner whatever what they're like. And then Ray's just like, why would that matter? But the reason I bring it up is because this is what Luffy sensed with Dogtooth. That he wasn't necessarily a bad guy. It was more like he was duty bound to his family, his mother, and whatever. So that's why Luffy thought he could get away with like I gotta go back to the conversation, but you gotta go back to it then. Mm-hmm. But Luffy's talking about intuitive sensing people's nature, their personality, stuff like that, their will, through the fight or through their will, like their Conqueror's Haki or whatever, in battle. So now I wonder if this, because animals kind of seem to be linked to Conqueror's Haki or being able to control or sense something, right? We've seen Conqueror's Haki even control or stop animals. So I wonder if this is like a sort of effect where through, like you said, it's not just through Loki's strength, even though it plays a big part. Through this attack it got hit by, it sensed Loki's inner nature.
Inner nature or intent.
Intent, whatever, right? Even though Loki portrays himself this way, we see him for how his ending is that he wasn't this crazed, power-hungry dude that took out his dad because he wanted power. But we'll go into that later. Which showed the true nature of Loki, what he really is, you know? So the animal could have sensed this, like, oh, he's actually worthy of eating it. But I believe that you may be able to sense it through Haki or someone's will, what Oda's been hinting at a little bit through other situations in the manga or his anime.
So for me, I'm not sure if this moment is meant to downscale Loki, but it's worth noting that he's the first character in the series shown infusing a weapon with Conqueror's Haki, only for that weapon to break against something that seemingly doesn't have Conqueror's Haki too. The situation with Law, the breaking of the back, I don't remember that too much, so if I'm wrong, correct me. But it's crazy because it just feels strange on the surface. However, if we give the scene the benefit of the doubt, especially considering this is the strongest Haki group in the series, there may be an explanation as to why Loki's hammer broke, even though it was infused with Conqueror's Haki. I believe Ragnar was gifted to Elbaf by Wano and is forged from the same indestructible metal used by the Kozuki stonemasons of Old Wano, the material used to create the poneglyphs for Nefertari D. Lily. This would explain why Ragnar could withstand a Conqueror's Haki-infused attack. To support this theory, we know Imu and the Gorosei possess Conqueror's Haki, yet they were unable to destroy the poneglyphs. Instead, they chose to violently suppress anyone capable of reading them. Additionally, Harold states that Ragnar has protected the legendary devil fruit on Elbaf for centuries earlier in the chapter, which also adds credibility to the idea that it's made from an extraordinary, near indestructible material from the distant past. This leads into the next part of my theory, Ragnar itself. I believe Ragnar was originally a hammer, like I just said, meaning the hammer ate a devil fruit. I don't think it was an animal on Elbaf that ate a hammer fruit, because we already have clear precedents for weapons consuming devil fruits in One Piece. In Alabasta, Baroque Works member Mr. Four wielded Lasso, a gun that ate the Inu no Mi model Dachshund, I think that's how you pronounce it, turning a weapon into a living dog. Later, in Cypher Pole, Spandam wielded Funkfreet, a sword that ate the Zozo no Mi, allowing it to transform into an elephant. Applying this logic to Loki and Ragnar, I believe Ragnar is a hammer that ate the Risu no Mi model Ratatoskr. That's how you say it? And in Norse mythology, Ratatoskr is a squirrel that runs up and down the world tree, Yggdrasil, carrying messages between the eagle perched at the top and the Dragnir Niohagar, who dwells beneath its roots. Which brings me to the devil fruit Loki himself may have eaten, the one Ragnar was guarding. I believe Loki consumed the mythical Zoan Hebi no Mi model Niohagar. We find Loki at the bottom of Yggdrasil, exactly where Niohagar is said to reside, and his dark, ominous silhouette strongly supports this idea. If not Niohagar, then the only other plausible option is the mythical Zoan fruit Fenrir, based on Loki's howl and Fenrir's deep mythological connection to Loki and Norse mythology. So I think those would be it.